Can you still publish books on KDP with no money? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about in this video. I'm going to show you how to publish books on KDP with no money, or even if your budget's around 2.5K, I'll show you how to publish books at that budget range. And I'll even show you how to publish books if you have 6K to spend. Now, if you don't know who I am, I'm Barry. I made hundreds of thousands of dollars on KDP. I helped over 250 publishers scale their KDP business. And I've helped publishers all over the world publish books with no money, publish books with a little bit of money, even less than 2.5, around $1,000 if you have. And I also help publishers publish books with a lot of money. Now I'm going to show you the most effective way to publish books in each one of these budget ranges. Now, before we talk about budgets, there's 3 very important things that every single publisher must have if they want to be successful on Amazon KDP. These 3 are must-haves. Now, the first one is time. Why do we need time? Because obviously we need to spend some time publishing the book or creating the book or uploading the book or running the ads. We need time to do specific things to even run our business. Now, I understand some people have a little bit of time and other people have loads of time. That's okay, because for each stage, there's going to be a specific amount of time needed to publish your book. Obviously, if you have money, which is the second most important thing, you can replace some of your time. You can buy other people's time, essentially. So you don't have to waste your one, which is perfect. Now, again, I'm going to show you how to publish a book for free as well, but having at least a tiny bit of money is crucial. Even if you only have $50 or $100, that's still great, because you can use that money super effectively. And the way you're going to use the money is really, really going to help you publish your book more effectively and actually make more sales. And I'm going to show you where I would spend this little tiny bit of money that I have if I was publishing my book for free. And then the final one is the most important one, which is skill. This is supposed to be a hammer, but this is your skill level. Now, if you have a lot of money and no skill, that's terrible. It's going to be very hard to succeed because you don't have the skills needed to succeed. So if you want to be a football player, but you're not physically fit, you don't even know how to pass, you've never touched a football in your life, and then you just go ahead and pay one of the most expensive coaches to coach you, well, you still don't really have the skills for that coach to amplify you even more, for it to be worth the price. So your skills must rise as your budget rises as well. Don't spend thousands of dollars on a book if you don't have the skills to publish that book, if you don't have the skills to analyze if that book is going to succeed or not, if you don't have the skills in design to see if that's an effective book cover or effective A+ content. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and talk about the budgets. Now, the first one is anywhere from $0 to $500. This is the low budget strategy. I'm going to call this the grinding strategy, or just the grind strategy. Actually, let me call it the grind method. That sounds a little bit better. This is going to require a lot of time. So because you don't have a lot of money, you need to find something to replace the money that you needed to publish a successful book. So you obviously have to use up more of your time to replace the money that you're lacking. Or instead of time, I'm going to put effort here, because this requires more effort on your part. Now, obviously, you should put effort into your business because it's your business. You're the mind of the business. So the more time and the more effort you put, the mind of the business, then the more effectively you can publish books. But anyway, when it comes to publishing, the first thing we need to figure out is the research. Now, no matter what budget I have, I do everything when it comes to research. I use my own manual method. I don't use all these softwares that show you a green button and then hopefully that's a profitable niche. Because if you're using a software, okay, and it's saying, hey, these are the profitable niches. If you're using a software to find profitable niches, and then you're waiting for the software to say, hey, this niche here, here's a green button. This seems like a good niche to publish in. Well, guess what? Everyone else that is using the same software is seeing the same niches. They're seeing the same green button and they're publishing the same books as you. But with my method, I do everything manually on Amazon. And that way I'm able to find niches that aren't being shown in the software. Now, obviously, if you're part of my program, you can just go inside the research module and you can see exactly how I do my research so you can find profitable niches. But once you've done your research, you're going to have to find a writer. Now, obviously, we don't have a lot of money to spend on a ghostwriter because we basically have no money. We have a maximum of $500 to spend. And I know most of you might just have $150 or $250. And some of you might have nothing. So we're not going to pay a writer to write anything. In fact, if I was in this position, I would use AI today to actually write the book. However, I'm not going to go on AI and just type in some random things. It gives me a mediocre book and I'm going to publish that book. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to use AI to try and make the best book possible. And I'm also going to edit it heavily myself. So whatever the AI gives me, I'm going to read it back sentence by sentence. And I'm going to write it in a more humane way. Now, some sentences are going to be good. You're not going to have to adjust them. But others, you are going to have to adjust them. Which is why it's going to require a lot more effort for you to have a high quality book because you have to put your own time into it, because you don't have money to pay someone else to edit it for you. You don't have money to pay someone else to write it for you, but you do have AI, which is actually going to help you save time. Now, when I first started publishing, AI didn't exist for writing books. So what did I do? Well, I didn't have any money. I was completely broke. I was making $3.70 an hour as a waiter. So I had no money to pay for a ghostwriter. So what did I do? I basically got a book. I started reading this book. I think it was on body language, but I started reading this book and I had my own little notepad and I would start writing notes in my notepad according to what was saying in this book because I wanted to learn body language. Now, by the end of it, I had around 30 pages worth of notes. By the way, this book was like 250 or 300 pages. It was absolutely massive. So what I did is I got these 30 pages and I thought, okay, well, if I have 30 pages worth of notes, if I can just write 3 or 4 paragraphs for each note that I have, then I'll have a full book. I'll have a 100-page book. And if I can figure out a way to publish this 100-page book, people will want to buy my book instead of the 250 or 300 pages book, because this is going to take way more time to read, and my one has the same information, just more compact. So people would buy my one. That was my thought process. So great, now I have 30 pages worth of notes. What am I gonna do? How am I gonna make a book? Well, I'm gonna have to sit and write it myself. Can't pay a ghostwriter. So that's exactly what I did. Without even knowing what KDP was, I just started writing my book. It took me around 6 months of writing. I wrote a 60,000 word book. And by the way, am I a writer? Absolutely no. But I had no other choice. I didn't have any money. I had to spend time writing my book. And I literally spent 6 months writing my first book. And then that book eventually went on to make around $200 in monthly net profit. But anyway, that was one of my first books that I published. And I spent a lot of time on the writing process because that was my product. Now, I didn't know it was going to take 6 months, but it took 6 months. But that's the thing. You don't have to spend 6 months anymore because you have AI to help you. You might spend 15 days or 30 days or 45 days. No matter how long you spend on your book, you don't have money to pay someone. So you might as well spend the time writing your book or using AI to help you. Now, I'm not going to go into details how to use AI to write the book. I'll leave that for a separate video. But if you want an easy way to make your first book, you can just do like a cookbook. If you do a cookbook, then great. That's not a lot of words. It's just recipes. It's much easier for AI to create recipes than a storybook, for example. So that will be an easier book to publish with AI, a cookbook, because you just have to tell AI, give me 100 recipes. And then for each recipe, you have to tell it, give me a nutritional value and give me this and give me that. And then you'll just have the recipe. You have the ingredients, how long it takes, the instructions, and then you can just put it inside your book, which leads perfectly onto my next point, which is formatting. Now, formatting, again, I wouldn't spend any money because formatting, I actually enjoy formatting. Put some Bob Marley in the background, put some Michael Jackson in the background, start formatting. And usually I use InDesign to format my paperbacks, and then I also use Kindle Create to format my ebooks. Now, these are very simple to use. You can go watch a 2-hour tutorial on how to use InDesign. You'll know how to use InDesign. Usually you do have to pay for it, but if you're smart enough, you can find it for free. I'm not going to tell you how to do illegal activities on YouTube, but you can figure that out by yourself. And then Kindle Create is obviously free from Amazon, so you don't have to pay for that. You just have to spend some time learning how to format and then actually formatting, which is why it's going to take a lot of effort at the start because you don't have money to replace your time with. Now, if you're doing a cookbook, you might also need some images. Personally, I would spend around $20 on FreePic. You can probably find some good images on FreePic. If you have a little bit more money to spend, you can use Shutterstock. Shutterstock is going to have way more images, but it's around $160 a month. So it's a lot more expensive. Now, if you don't have images, you can go find some for free online. It will be much, much harder for you to find appropriate images because you do have to find royalty-free images. So images that you are allowed to use to sell your book with, but you can just pay for a subscription. I would say around $20 to $50 a month just for the images if you're doing a cookbook or if you need illustrations for your book. But if you don't need images, you don't have to do this. If it's just a text-based book, that's okay. Now, obviously, if you want to go down the super cheap route, you can use AI as well, but it's just the images aren't going to be super high quality. But if it's your first book or if it's your first few books and you don't have a lot of money, you can still experiment with AI. Just keep testing, keep running experiments, try to find different ways to do things. This is all about you learning. So don't constrict yourself to, I'm only going to do what Barry tells me to do. If you want to go find some AI images because you don't have $20 or $50 to spend, great. You'll start to learn how to use AI and then you'll start to learn the prompts. What prompts give me better results and things like that. Anyway, that's what I would do for images. Now, what about the book cover? Because the book cover is so important. Again, we can't really hire someone super professional because we don't have a lot of money. And if I didn't have a lot of money, I still wouldn't hire anyone to do the book cover. What I would do is do the cover myself. Now, I know what you're saying, but Barry, I don't know how to use Photoshop. By the way, you can use Canva as well. Personally, I use Photoshop because there's more features. But if you're brand new to design, you can easily use Canva. But Barry, I don't know design. Great. this is an opportunity for you to learn design. Because just like we talked about at the start, that your skill is one of the most important things. Not your money or your time. Obviously, you need your time to run your business. You need a little bit of money to run your business. But if you don't have the skills, you don't have a solid business. You are the mind behind the business. And if the mind isn't solid, which is the foundation, the thing that's running the business, if you're not solid, if your skills aren't solid, then your business isn't solid because the entire business relies on you. So this is a great opportunity to amplify your skills. If you don't know how to use Canva, use Canva. If you want to start learning how to use Photoshop, go watch some tutorials on Photoshop. But because you're designing a book cover, learn everything you can about design. Your book cover is one of the most important aspects of your book. If you mess up the book cover, you can mess up the entire book. Literally, just the book cover can be the difference between you making $200 a month and making $1,500 a month in net profit. Just the cover alone. It's so important. But if you don't have the skills of design, then all your covers are going to be bad because you're relying on nothing to tell you if it's a good cover or not. Now, I've spoken to many people during sessions and calls and one-on-one coaching, and I see that design is the biggest aspect that most publishers are lacking. And I've even spoken to some design teachers and marketing experts, and they're still not doing the correct designs for their book covers, which is holding their books back. So if you don't have money to pay for a book cover, great, you're in the perfect position to learn, because this is exactly the position I was in. My first book covers were terrible, but I kept learning and growing and learning and growing, learning as much as I can about design, because design in general matches with everything. The same design principles that you use for a book cover is the same principles you use for poster design or movie poster design or flyers. Design plays a massive role, and you're going to need this for marketing anyway. So you might as well learn design, even if you have no money, because guess what you have to put? Time. So put some effort into learning design. It's the best thing you can do for your publishing business. Now, if you're gonna pay for Photoshop, again, it's around $50 a month. You can get both of these together for around $50 or $60 a month. Canva, if you pay the pro version, it's around $20 a month, but you can use the free one if you don't want the paid features of it. But yeah, the next step is actually the metadata. So these are all your descriptions and all of that. Again, I'm not gonna write this down because I'm gonna do everything myself. I'm not gonna pay someone to write a description. I'm gonna do the description myself. It's like a 25, 30-minute job. Put your keywords inside, put the correct copywriting. If you don't know copywriting, learn copywriting. But I will do all the metadata myself. And then the final thing is obviously Amazon ads. Now, any money that's left, I would put it in Amazon ads. Why is that? I would say anywhere from $150 to $450, because let's say we have 500, we spend $50 on the Canva and then InDesign, or we pay for some AI software or just something. If we paid a little bit of money and we still have some left, I would spend all of it on Amazon ads. Now, if you don't have any money, no money, if you have zero money, personally, in your position, I would save money as much as I can. Even if it's $50 only, and it takes you an extra week or 2 weeks to save that $50. Using that $50 just to get your first initial sales is crucial for your book launch. Now, obviously, Amazon ads is a separate video. I'll do a separate video on Amazon ads and my book launches and all of that. If you want to see it, just leave a comment down below. Let me know what you want to see and I'll make a video for you. But when it comes to Amazon ads, I want to spend at least something, especially in the first month. So personally, I would save money. If I didn't have any money, try to find at least $50 or at least $100. And you can run some very, very cheap campaigns. Obviously, you're going to collect data a lot slower. However, that's a sacrifice you're making because you have low money. But anyway, personally, if you're in this position right here, the zero money and $500 to spend, you're in the best position, in my opinion, because this position is the one where you can amplify your skill the most. This is a position where you go from not really knowing anything, slowly learning, and then, oh my God, you're learning so much so fast. That's what it's going to feel like from 0 to 500 if you're in this budget area. It's all about amplifying your skill. This is the most important thing here. It's not about you trying to make a bunch of money overnight. It's about you amplifying your skills in order to make the money. Because if you don't have the skills, you're not going to make the money. And this still counts even if you have a $5,000 budget to publish a book. If you don't have the skill to publish that book, you're just going to waste your $5K. Okay, let's move on to the next budget. So the next budget is anywhere from $500 to around, I would say, $2.5K. If this is your budget to spend on a book, here's exactly how I would spend it. Now, research is going to stay exactly the same. I have my own method. I'm going to use my method to find my niche. I'm not going to pay anyone to find a niche. I'm never, ever, ever going to pay someone else to find a niche for me. I'm going to find a niche myself because obviously we need our own manual resources to figure out if that's a good niche to sell or not. But anyway, the first thing I'm going to do is pay for a writer. Now, if my budget is around $300, which some of you might have a $300 budget just for the writer, I would spend some on a writer just so they can write the base of the book. So let's say we're publishing a short stories for boys or football short stories for boys. So it's short stories and it's for kids. It's for boys ages 8 to 10. And then it's all about football. If we're publishing that book, then we can use the 300 to publish, to hire someone to write the book. However, we can also use AI, just like we did before, to add more elements to our book so we can amplify the value of our book. How can we do that? Maybe we can use AI to add certain quizzes or certain fun facts. Or maybe we can use it to create some illustrations, add some illustrations in the pages, amplify the page number. There's many different ways we can get creative with AI to amplify our book. But because we pay the $300 for the writer to write the base of the book, we can use AI to add more simple elements to it. We don't have to go through and spend all our time editing the book because the ghostwriter already wrote the book for us. We're just using AI to amplify it. Now over here, I haven't adjusted it, but we don't have to spend as much effort anymore. So our effort is up here. And then we also have more money to spend. So our money goes all the way up here. So we have equal amounts of money and effort to spend or time to spend. Right here, we're doing it. Right here, we're sharing the work. So the writer's writing it and then we're using AI to amplify the book. And then when it comes to formatting, personally at this stage, like I said before, I enjoy formatting. So I would do it myself. But if you do want to pay someone, I would pay around $150 for paperback formatting. Now, if they want extra for the ebook, I wouldn't really pay for the ebook. I would save the money and just do the ebook myself. Because using Kindle Create to actually do the ebook is super simple. It's actually really fun to do. It's very robotic. You can get in the flow and it's super, super simple to edit. It's literally just to drag the text, click on it, now it's formatted. So when you want to make something bold, you just highlight it, make it bold. Highlight it, put a header on it. Highlight it, make a chapter title. It's super, super easy. If you haven't seen Kindle Create, go on YouTube, search Kindle Create, go on Amazon, download Kindle Create, try and test it out and see what you can do with it. But Kindle Create is the best way to do the ebooks. Paperback is a little bit more complicated, requires a little bit more time. And if you're not willing to put the time in yourself to learn formatting and actually do it in InDesign or any other app that you want, then I would recommend you pay around $150 for formatting. This is going to get you some decent formatting. Anything under $150 is usually very cheap. Now, what I find is that there's sometimes the formatting is a little bit too close to the edge of the page and it doesn't look very nice and organized. They don't leave enough margins sometimes. But anyway, $150 would be how much I would pay for formatting. Now, when it comes to the book cover, I mean, personally, again, I would do it myself because I enjoy the design. But if I don't have the time, I would spend anywhere from around $150 on a book cover to $300, I would say, if this was my budget. Now, if I'm going to spend $150 on the book cover, I need to make sure I actually understand design. I'm not going to hire someone, make a book cover, and whatever they give me, I'm going to slap it on Amazon without knowing anything about design. So if I understand design and I understand the principles, and if you're in my program, I share the 12 design principles that all bestsellers are using. This includes New York Times bestsellers, Amazon KDP bestsellers. All the bestsellers are using these 12 design principles to make super highly effective book covers. Now, if you know those design principles, you can hire someone for $150. They'll do the base of the cover, and then you can take that, put it in Photoshop, and start making your own adjustments to amplify the cover, to make it look like a $500 cover, make it look like a New York Times best-selling cover, because you know the principles. Now, if you don't know the principles, you're going to be forced to hire a more expensive book cover designer because you're basically paying for their skill. Because you don't have the skill of book design, you have to pay for someone else's skill. And design is a very valuable skill. And obviously your book cover is a very, very valuable asset to your business, to your book. So you're going to have to be forced to pay more money for the value of the book cover and the value of the skill of the designer, just because you don't have the skill, which is why I'm saying learn the skill. It's going to be cheaper in the long run and you're going to produce better book covers because of it. Now, even if you're going to hire someone for $300, still learn the skill because you don't know if this guy is going to give you a mediocre book cover. If you don't understand design and you don't have the skills of design, you don't know anything about this book cover. I had a client, I was working one-on-one with a client, and then they showed me their book cover, and I saw it and I thought, okay, very, very, very mediocre book cover. Probably got it from like a $25, $35 designer. And I asked him how much it cost, and he said it was $400, $390 for a book cover. And it looked like it was made from a $50 guy on Fiverr. Now, why is that? It's just because the client didn't have the design skills. That's it. If they had the skills, they would notice what was wrong with the book cover, and obviously they wouldn't pay the $400 for that designer because might as well just do it themselves. It will end up better if you have the skills. Now, what about Amazon ads? Before I talk about Amazon ads, there's one more thing I would pay for because I have the budget to do so, and that's A+ content. Now, if you have, again, design skills, you can do the A+ content yourself and save the money, but A+ content is crucial if you want to amplify your conversion rate. Now, if you watched all my other videos, you understand about conversion rate. I'm not going to talk about conversion rate in this video. I'm going to try and do one video without talking about conversion rate, and hopefully this one's it. But A+ content increases your conversion rate, which means you make more sales for less clicks. Now, if you understand design, you can do highly effective A+ content, which are going to increase your conversion rate even more and going to bring you even more sales. If your A+ content isn't effective, it's not going to bring you as many sales. So you're going to be missing out on sales the longer you keep the non-effective A+ content running. So if you understand design, you can create effective A+ content yourself. if you don't understand design, you're probably gonna have to pay around $150 for a designer to do that for you. Now, you're gonna have to supply all the writing and all of that, so all the copywriting, you're gonna have to write it yourself and then send it to the designer and just say, hey, this is my copywriting, or sometimes the designers do the copywriting. But yeah, you're gonna have to pay around $150 for some good A+ content for a book. Now up here, because we have a slightly high budget, so if you have the 2.5K, not 500 to around 1,000, if you have 2.5, I would do everything like this. But right here on the writer, I can afford to spend more. So I can afford to spend around $1,000 on a writer. And again, I can use AI to amplify the book. But if I spend $1,000 on a writer, I'm gonna get higher quality writing. I'm gonna have more words, so more information. I can have a heftier book. It's just a more valuable book. But again, depends on your budget. But anyway, Amazon ads, whatever's left, that's what I would spend on Amazon ads, because this is my marketing. This is the thing that's actually bringing me customers. I need this. So I want to spend as much money on it as possible. However, we need to allocate the amount of money based on the importance of the element of the product. And then whatever's left, we can spend it on marketing. So if we go down the super high route, so 2.5K, we have $1,000, $150, $450, $500, $600. So we have around $900 left. This is how much I would try to spend my first month running ads. $900. Obviously, you can allocate your budget however you want. If you have $900 to spend for 2 months, you can do $500 the first month, then $400 the second month, because you're going to start negative targeting some keywords over here. You're going to start being a little bit more accurate over here, more optimized. You're going to get better sales, better clicks, lower cost per click because your book's making sales. But anyway, Amazon ads is a different video. But that's how I would spend my money if this was my budget. Obviously, if it was only 500, then I would probably hire this guy, do everything else myself, and then just use 200 for Amazon ads. If it's $1,000, things will be different. Again, I would have to replace some of these and do it myself, depending on the amount of budget that I have. But if you have 2.5K, then you can just go through this process and you'll have a solid book, especially if you have the skills to back it up. You have a solid book, and then you have enough money to start running some very, very effective ads at the start. Now, what if my budget is way bigger than this and I have a big budget? I'm very serious about KDP. I'm going to publish a solid book. I want this book to start making sales, and then I want those sales to last for years to come, because you might be thinking about selling your business, or you just want to quit your job and actually have a business running in the background. You want high numbers, you want 4-figure businesses. You don't want to do these mediocre books and just make 500 or $1,000 a month. You want solid books. You want $1,500, $2,000 per month books. Now, if you're doing $2,000 a month from one book and that's profit, and you do that for a year, so 12 months, you instantly have a business that you can sell for around 80 to 100K, or I think it's around 60 to 80K. I think it's around 60 to 80K. So you have a 60 to 80K asset. That's the value of your asset. That's one book if you're hitting 2K. So it makes sense for you to spend more money initially up front. So now we're going to talk about the budget for 2.5K until around, I would say around 6K. Not a lot of publishers go over 6K, but this is the range we're talking about. This range is going to allow you, if done everything correctly, it's going to allow you to create books that bring you over $1,000 a month in net profit. Now, if you reach the 2K mark, again, that's a 60K business in a 12-month time frame. So you have an asset that's worth 60 to 80K because you spent 2.5 or 6K to create it. Now, obviously, we have ads and everything else on the back end, but we'll talk about everything right now. Now, right here, you have a lot of money, but you still have to put some effort in, because like we said at the start, you are the business. Your mind is the business. The whole business runs on you. So you're still going to have to put some effort. Even if you're hiring a bunch of people, again, you have to put some effort in, because you have to go out and hire the people. You have to interview them. You have to pick the one that's best for you. You have to get some samples from them. See from the sample who's the best writer, who's the best cover designer. I'll show you everything right now. But right now we have a bunch of money to spend and not a lot of time. We're not going to put a lot of effort, because we're basically going to hire everyone to do everything. First step, research. We're not going to hire someone to do the research, because like I said, this is our own method. We want to do this by ourselves. We want to find the secret niches, the profitable niches by ourselves. But with the writer, now we have some budget to spend on a good writer. We can basically make any book we want, whether it's a high content nonfiction, whether it's priced at $20, whether it's an encyclopedia, whether it's a lot of information or not a lot of information. We can basically do any book we want. Obviously, once we do the research and find that the niche is profitable and that we're ready, it's a good niche to publish a book in, it's actually gonna make us money. Once we do that, then we can start thinking about where to allocate our budget for our book. So the writer, I would say anywhere from $1,500 to 2.5K. Now, this is going to ensure that we actually have some high quality writing. $1,500, you're going to find some really, really good writers. Now, 2.5K, you're going to find some really, really good writers. It can be the same word count, but these guys just really know what they're doing. So the way they write, their sentence structures, the flows between the sentences, these are like writing things. I'm not going to go super in depth into it, but usually what I find is that the lower I go, the more academic the writing. and not as engaging for the reader. So if I hire someone to write a psychology book for me, let's say, for $1,000, they might write it in a very, very academic way. And when you read it, it's kind of boring. There's no life to it. Because they know how to write, they know the rules of the English language, but they don't know how to write engagingly or engaging content. However, when you're hiring more experienced people, they know how to create really engaging content. They know how to write to keep you hooked. They know how to write to make everything easily readable and more enjoyable. They know how to write stories effectively, so you can feel emotions when you're reading the book. So if you have a high budget, your writer is your main thing, because your writer is going to determine the quality of your book. And if you want this to be a long-term, consistently selling book, then you want to focus on quality. It's the only thing that's going to give you long-term income. Now, once you pay for your writer, what about formatting? You're probably not going to do the formatting yourself. So I would say pay around $250 for someone to do the paperback and ebook formatting, or you can go all the way up to $500 if you want really professional formatting. There's some formatters out there for $500. They'll do loads of amazing things. Put some nice illustrations in the background with a lower opacity. They can do the images where, let's say the image is a circle. They can do the text to go around the circle. They can make a really engaging interior design. They leave enough space around. They're not going to do any margin mistakes. They do the headers. They select custom-made fonts or rare-to-find fonts. They really look at your book cover. They look at your book. They digest your book. They understand your audience, and then they create interior relevant to your audience. If it's a kid's book, they're actually going to go find appropriate fonts for the kids and put illustrations in the background and have a really appealing design with nice icons. It's going to make it engaging. So spending money on a formatter is really going to give you a higher quality book. If you know how to do it yourself, great, do it yourself. If you want to hire just basic formatting, you don't need anything too fancy, great. $250, you can probably get your paperback and ebook done for around $250. Now, when it comes to your book cover, this is what I would do. I would go and buy around a $400 or $500 book cover contest on 99 Designs. If you go on 99 Designs, they do book cover contests. Now, what that means is that you run a contest to say, hey, I need a book cover for a truck book for kids. This is a truck. I can't draw a truck, but let's say this is a truck. If I want a book cover for a truck book for kids, I'm going to go and say, hey, this is the type of book cover I want. Here are my competitors. This is what their book covers look like. I want the book cover to be blue because that's my brand. I'll give them a designer brief, which basically explains what I want. And then I'm going to publish it on 99 Designs. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow designers to join my contest. So I might have around 10 designers in the contest. And these 10 designers are designing their own book covers according to what I need. They're going to send them to me, and then from these guys, I'm going to decide the top 5. So let's say I had these people. I might say, I don't like this book cover, I don't like this book cover. These 5 guys are going to qualify to the next round. They qualify to the next round, they fix the book cover a little bit, they make some adjustments that you tell them to make, and then from these 5, you're going to qualify 3. I think it's something like that. I haven't ran a book cover contest in a while because I enjoy doing the book covers myself, but I think you select 3 finalists. It's either 3 or 5 finalists, and then you select your favorite one out of there. Now, when you do this, you get many different variations of designs because these guys can't see each other's designs. Everyone has to do what they think. So you get a bunch of variations. You select the ones you like. The ones you like qualify to the next round. You can talk to the designers and say, hey, make some adjustments like this. Try this kind of style because I think it might look better like this. From that, you select the best one. And then this guy that you selected that has the best book cover, he's the only guy that gets paid the $400 or $500. So you're only paying for the best book cover design out of all of them at the start. And you get to select the one that you want. Now, if you're good with Photoshop and you understand design and you know my 12 design principles as well, then great. This book cover is probably going to be around 80% done because you're going to pay for this guy. He's going to do the book cover. And then what you can do is put this in Photoshop and start experimenting yourself. So you can make little adjustments, see if you can amplify it yourself. Because sometimes you have different creativity than the designer. And then what you can do, obviously, is test out their book cover against your new adjusted book cover. You can run a contest on PickFu or something like that. And then you can use the data to see which book cover do people prefer. But anyway, what happens once we have the book cover? Well, the next thing we need to talk about is A+ content. Now, for A+ content, again, it will be the same thing. $150 for the design. I don't think, if you have this type of budget, I don't think you're designing anything yourself. So $150 for design, but personally, I would also pay around $150 for a very good copywriter. This is what I did with one of my books, and that book went on to sell over $1,500 in net profit every single month. That's what it brings me in. Because I hired a copywriter, then I gave that copywriting material to a A+ content designer. They designed the content for me, and I had super highly effective A+ content. Now, for that book, I also hired a writer for $1,500. They weren't the best writer. I would have hired someone else if I knew they weren't going to do that great of a job. But I mean, the book still went on to to sell a bunch of copies. I think I sold around over 3,000 copies of that book. But anyway, combined, I would spend around 300 just for the A+ content. This is increasing my conversion rate, giving me more sales. So this is the best amount of money I could spend. And then finally, it's your ads. I would spend anywhere from around 1K to 1.5K, especially the first month. Now, if you're following my technique, we target very, very hyper-specific keywords at the start. We don't do what everyone else is teaching, which is target 300 different keywords in 500 different campaigns and run auto campaigns and just mush all your books together. I don't do that. I publish campaigns with super highly relevant keywords, super targeted keywords. That's going to teach the Amazon correctly what our book is about, and it's going to help us bring in the correct sales initially. We get cheaper sales, we get more targeted sales, and it helps us later on down the line. Now, if this is my budget, I would spend anywhere from 1,000 to around 1,500, especially in the first month. Once we gather the data and we start doing optimizations, then I can start spending more in the next coming months because then we can scale that book. But anyway, this is basically how I would spend around 2.5 to 6K if I had to publish a book for that amount of money. Now, everything we are buying, everything we're purchasing or investing in is to amplify the sales of our book, the quality. So the higher your budget, the higher the quality of your book. And obviously, the higher quality your book is, the more sales you can make. But before I finish this video, there's one more thing we need to talk about. And this is so important. If you have a bunch of money to spend, but you don't have skill, it's not going to make up for it. Skill is everything you need. It doesn't matter how much money you have or who you hire or who you know. If you don't have the skill of running a publishing business, if you don't understand the fundamental concepts, if you don't understand about good design and good marketing and then how to run Amazon ads, then no matter how much money you have, it's going to be a nightmare for you. Because I've had so many publishers come to me and they've thrown thousands of dollars on ad agencies. And then all they ended up doing is just wasting more of their money. Now, the reason the ad agencies wasted all their money is because they didn't have the skill of running Amazon ads. The publishers that hired them didn't have the skills of running Amazon ads. So instead of learning the skill so they can even see if these guys are doing a good job, they just gave them the money and then that made their book worse. Now, I'm not saying all ad agencies are bad. There's some that are good. I'm sure some of them can help you. But I've had many clients where they did have money, but they had no skill and they ended up losing more money than they put in. And like I said before, I had a client, they paid for a book cover, $400, but the book cover was terrible. Why did they not know that it was terrible, even though they paid $400? Because they didn't have the skill. Money is not going to make up for your skill, but your skill can make up for your money. So having the skill is extremely important. The skill of running ads or analyzing the data, the skill of design, the skill of marketing, the skill of research. These are the skills that you need to have if you want a successful business. Now, if you have the skills and the money, great. Running a KDP business is going to be super easy for you. The only people that are finding a very, very hard time running a KDP business are the people with no skills or very, very little skills. So make sure you amplify your skill as you're amplifying your budget. If you don't have anything, great. You have more time than ever to learn as many skills as possible. As your skills grow and you start making money with KDP, then you're going to have $500 to invest in your next book. Well, you have some of the skills that are going to help you save money on certain elements that you have to buy. So you know exactly where to allocate the money based on where you're lacking skills. And then when you get to a higher stage where you're hiring people for like $500 for a book cover, well, now you have the skill of design to see if this was worth it. The only reason you're paying $500 is so you don't waste your time on making the book cover. You pay someone else to do it, do 80% of it for you, and then you can do the rest of the 20% because you have the skill to determine if these guys are even good, and then you have the skill to amplify it even more. That's what I do. That's what my clients do. That's exactly how we make money on KDP. So make sure you grow your investment in your book and in your business while you're growing your skills. If you're just throwing more and more money without increasing your KDP skills, then, I mean, down the line, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. But anyway, if you found this video valuable, click on this video that just popped up. You're going to find it extremely valuable. And if you want to learn from me, then just click on the description. You'll figure out how to learn from me there. And yeah, go out there and make a bunch of money on KDP.